What's up, y'all? It's me, Kay, and I'm back again. Y'all got me lock, sock, and all. Y'all, I woke up in the middle of the night to watch the Shy when it premiered. Since tomorrow is Juneteenth, well, technically today. Today is Juneteenth, so everybody is staying up late, and so I was just like, oh no, I got to go ahead and watch the episode. Now, I saw before I got on here that this episode was 55 minutes. So y'all already know we about to have a full-blown discussion because there is a lot to discuss, okay? Especially with that ending. Y'all, my heart was beating fast. Y'all getting this review, lock, sock, and all. I ain't even finna take this off. Real raw. Y'all, it is currently 4:16 in the morning. I'm gonna be thinking about this all day now, because now I'm gonna have to get online all day today and talk to my cousins about what we just witnessed. Okay, so the episode starts off with where we picked up at the end of episode 4. Nuck and Tiff are having a conversation. I'm looking down, I'm reading my notes. Nuck tells Tiff that basically Tiff asks Nuck what was Bakari talking about, and Nuck says to Tiff, well, what does it matter? If you're gonna trust me, you gotta trust me. And she was like, well, I don't know if I trust you. And he was like, well, you don't love me no way. So if you ain't gonna trust me, you gonna love me, but we don't gotta be together or whatever like that. And so then she was like, I trust you. And then he was like, you're only saying that because you want me to tell you what's going on. So she was like, well, can you tell me what's going on? And so basically he lies to her, as we already know, and says that basically I'm working with Toussaint to give up information. So then she was like, so basically you would snitch. And I was just like, oh my God, Nuck, you dirty scoundrel. Next we have Reg and Jackie. Reg and Jackie are in this undisclosed location, and there was a description. I think the description said that Reg was going to do something and get easy money or something like that. So come to find out, the easy money was he was hired, him and Jackie was hired by Rosalind to take out Nora, because as you know, Patience had people watching Nora's house because Nora recanted her statement about Shad. And I'm just like, well, I be dog on. Who would have thought that Rosalind would have reached out to Reg and Jackie? So basically, can I say that on YouTube? They sniped her from another building and takes her out. And so it was just crazy, because I'm just like, dang, she was at home, she didn't least expect it. And I'm just like, this is probably the one time Patience ain't got nobody watching her house, because we see Patience and Shad together on a date. And so I'm just like, dang gone. I hate this, because now Shad gonna really feel bad, because that's gonna be another woman who basically was taken out without, him being around or him being able to do something about it. But I do think that they're going to end up finding out it was Rosalind. First of all, Patience is already going to know it's Rosalind, because Nora told her that Rosalind is the one who paid her. So basically, Rosalind just got herself arrested for real. All right, moving on. We got a lot to talk about. I say that was a crazy way to open the episode, because I knew Nora was gone. Episode 5, they got to speed things up, obviously. Like, with the pacing of everything, we only got 5 episodes left before the season is over with. And so my main concern, and I'm just happy that Bakari lived another day to tell the story, because I was like, if they execute Bakari in this episode, or Papa, I'm going to be done. Emmett catches Devontae watching adult films on his phone. And so basically, after that, Emmett confiscates his phone, rightfully so, because he's only 12. I'm just like, golly, children get curious about that kind of stuff that early? I mean, I remember I was 12 once, but I won't doing that. I won't watching nothing like that until child. That won't have no birds and bees talk at 12. Um, Basically, after Emmett catches Devontae, he goes up there and talks to Keisha about it. And Keisha was basically like, well, Emmett, now is the time you have to have a conversation with your son. She was just like, and you need to tell him about consent. You need to tell him about its different types of intercourse. You need to tell him the full shebang. Or you need to explain it to him. That way he's not confused. And then Emma was like, dog, I didn't even know all of that when I was his age. And Keisha was like, I didn't either, but I had to learn the hard way. And so I think that Keisha being with Emmett is very good because Keisha provides Emmett structure. And I think that's what Emmett needs. Also, Emmett, you know, is hesitant because this is the first child that he's having to have this conversation with. As we know, Emmett's two other sons, I think Devontae might be the second son, but he has two older sons than that come before EJ. And so I'm just like, wow. And we didn't get to see him, you know, do this with his first son. I don't even remember his first son's name. What's his first son? Y'all don't remember? I'm gonna have to look it up. But anyway, so of course, you know, he said they're gonna talk. He's gonna end up having to have a talk with him. So, you know, but Emmett's mentally preparing himself to do so. Next, we see Patience and Shaw was together. And I put, so Nora was watching the house. And Patience comes out and tells Shaw to have a son. Obviously, last episode, we found out that Mondo was Patience's son. And so Patience asked Shaw how he feels about, you know, dating a woman with a child. And he said he doesn't mind. She also tells him that her and her child's father have an agreement that, you know, whenever it comes time the person is dating and they want to introduce their significant other to the child, that they have to have permission from the parent first. And I think that's healthy communication. Whatever makes each parent comfortable. That's all that matters. Next, Emmett has a talk with Darnell. Basically, Emmett goes to Darnell for wisdom because Emmett is still unsure about how he's going to approach Devontae because Emmett, you know, is just learning. He's on the job training. Like, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. So he asked Darnell, but Darnell was just like, I don't know. I can't really give you no advice because I didn't really prepare you to, you know, have birds and bees talk with you. So, and that's probably why you in the same situation as me. But Darnell, I just love the moments with him and Darnell, really, because it just shows the growth of their relationship and how everything has come full circle. Even throughout this conversation, Darnell ends up telling Emmett that he is very proud of the man he has become, that his mama did a bang-up job. It's a real emotional moment because, you know, I like how Riley is still living there, which I'm still not comfortable with, but, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, they still keep Jada's memory alive, and so I really like that. Sorry, my iPad just cut off while I was in the middle of talking. Now I gotta go back to my part where I was at. Okay. Next, Lene is at home and she's listening to the recording that Kenya sent her. She is very nervous, very anxious, very afraid. She texts Bakari and basically says that she hears a situation going on in her neighborhood and that she's scared. She hears a shooting going on in her neighborhood and she's scared. I wonder if she lived across the street from Nora. Anywho, so the police lights are out there. I'm thinking she do live across the street from Nora. Anyway, the police lights are out there. So I'm just glad that it turns out that it was nothing on Lene's end, because from the way the trailer was shot, it made it look like somebody got injured protecting Lene and Lene was hiding. But she ended up texting Bakari, which I feel like that kind of like broke the ice. Because I know the description said that Bakari was going to try to soften Lene. But Lene, to me, was already softened because she, even though she wasn't talking to Bakari, she called Bakari. And Bakari did not hesitate. She was like, I'm over here by myself at the house. I'm alone. I'm afraid. And he sped over there. Keisha talks to Riley about taking Devontae's phone. So basically, the dynamic between Riley and Keisha is very similar to the dynamic that, you know, Keisha had with Jada. And that even is brought up in this conversation. You know, she says that she's not trying to take Jada's place, and she knows how Jada feels. She knows how everybody feels about Jada, but she does appreciate being in the family. And I was like, "Oh, Riley, please." Keisha was like, "You've been a great addition. We'd love to have you." Basically, Riley gives Keisha advice on how to, you know, take away Devontae's phone without him feeling like he's cut off from the rest of the world. So that brings up, you know, Riley, you know, encourages Keisha to have a conversation with the other mothers. And so she says that she is going to introduce them to the other boy's mom. Obviously, you know, Keisha already knows Amaya, which is Tevin's mom, but she has not met Patience yet, who is Mondo's mom. Next, I said Trig asked Emmett about Tiff and Nuck. So basically, I remember a couple episodes ago where there was this whole conversation, this whole interaction between Tiff and Trig, and how it kind of seems like they wasn't over yet or whatever. So I was like, golly, Trig is still feeling Tiff. I mean, I knew that from the beginning, but it's just the fact that it's coming back up again. And so basically, Trig and Emmett are at Ergo and they're having a conversation. And so Trig basically tells Emmett, like, what do you think about Tiff being with Nuck? Like, do you think she really trusts him and all this other stuff? And Emmett was like, okay, so what's up? You trying to get back with Tiff or whatever? And, you know, he doesn't say no, but you know, Emmett don't really have much to say because, you know, Nuck is Keisha's baby father. So, it's just weird because after that, the conversation, Trig basically brings up that Emmett brings up the Trig, he was uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable with the whole, like, whatever they had the first time. Y'all remember it happened last season when Trig went to Emmett basically saying he had feelings with Tiff and everything like that. So Emmett ends up telling Trig that he's gonna propose to Keisha or whatever like that. And so Trig is happy for him and he was just like, well, just let me know, whatever like that, you know, we celebrate. So after that, Bakari shows up to the house and he basically has a talk with Lene, and Lene was like, I'm scared, you know, I think somebody's coming after me or whatever. And so then he was like, I'm here, I'm not gonna let that happen to you or whatever like that. And so they kind of have like a little soft tender moment, and then they have an entanglement, and then the camera switches. I was just like, Lene, that was fast, girl. I thought you was gonna make him pay. I thought you was gonna make him suffer. You didn't make him suffer enough. He had it kind of easy. The scene switches and the kids are back at the rec center, and basically the kids are all arguing with each other because Devontae ain't got his phone, but the other two boys, Mondo and Tevin, they still got their phone, and so they just trying to, I guess, figure out what they're gonna do because Devontae's like, I'm bored. And so they was just like, well, it ain't my fault. You ain't got no phone, whatever like that. And so they basically laughing and joking around, what have you. And then after that, the scene switches. And then it's back to Bakari and Lene. And so after Bakari and Lene have the entanglement, Bakari, you know, him and Lene are laying in the bed. And he just basically was like, so, like, what does this mean? And Lene was like, it doesn't mean anything. And he was just like, so, like, how are we gonna move forward? And Lene was like, I don't know. And then he was just like, well, can I at least stay here? I don't really have anywhere to stay. Can we just be friends? I don't have nowhere to, I need somewhere to stay. And she was like, I'll think about it. I was like, dang, Bakari. So Bakari, he didn't get used in that sense, but he did get used. I was like, dang, Lene, that's a little bit savage, but whatever. She just trying not to, I think she's just trying to protect herself, because basically she ends up asking him like, if we get back together, are you gonna be committed to me, or are you gonna be committed to the streets? And he was just like, I can be committed to both. And she was like, no, you can't. I was like, period. Let him know, Lene. Emmett ends up having the birds of the bees talk with Devontae. You can tell how uncomfortable Emmett was, but I was proud of Emmett because he got over his uncomfortableness. And they talked about a whole lot of stuff. Me, quite frankly, I'm real grown, and I was uncomfortable with the conversation. I was just like, oh no, Emmett, you might be a little too descriptive. You ain't had to like dumb it down or water it down. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like if we could say like he gave him like a real strong Sprite and it needed to be like water with lemon. I was like, this Emmett, you going too deep. He is 12. But I mean, he made Devontae feel comfortable nonetheless. And, he told Devontae, if, you need to come back and ask questions, you can always come to me, ask me any type of questions. You can ask Keisha, you can ask Riley, you can ask your granddaddy, you can ask any one of us if you have any further questions. Darnell, Trick, Shaw, and Emmett are hanging out and they're catching up on life. And so basically Emmett tells them that he's going to propose. And then Shaw tells them that he's dating Patience and Patience want him to meet his son. And so, they just having a few shows. They just having a couple beers and they just doing man talk. But I still like that dynamic. I like that they all get to hang out together. It really, keeps a close bond. I appreciate that. The little brother circle. Okay, so after that, Amaya, Patience, Keisha, and Emmett are having a talk at Keisha and Emmett's house about the boys. And so basically, Keisha explains to the other moms that they took Devontae's phone because Devontae was, doing stuff he ain't had no business. And so they was like, well, I think if y'all take y'all son's phone and we all on the same page, then it would be easier for Devontae and the boys really to like focus on being young boys and not be on the phone as much. And so, Amaya was just like, well, when I was younger, I was on the phone all the time. And then Patience was like, not Patience. Yeah, Patience was like, I was on the phone too a lot. She was like, but it's not the same. And, it is really not. Like, the children have so much more access to stuff on their phones than the millennials had. We had a flip phone, we had a camera phone, and we can get on the internet a little bit, but the access they got to everything, I was just like, oh my God. And the way Devontae was just sitting on his phone, his headphones in, just out in the open, I'm just like, please, sir, please put a parental block on that phone. Put a parental block on that phone. Next we see Patience and Shaw are at her child's father's house, and they're basically having a conversation. And Patience is introducing Shaw to him, and so basically he has a few questions for Shaw or whatever, and Shaw gives him a little background. He's trying to earn the trust of the father, and so the father is questioning him, giving him a tough time, but he ends up softening and saying that Rashad is okay to meet Mondo. And so I was just like, okay, I like the dynamic that Patience and her baby father have, because, it's very grown and it's not like childish, but, Patience gives me that she don't play. And I like that. I like a woman that's about her business, period. Like, we don't gotta worry about her dealing with no mess. She don't take no mess, and you don't bring no mess to her front door. And I like the fact that, even though we seen Shaw date a couple women throughout the Shy, I feel like Patience is a good speed for him, and she never judged him as well. And I like that, because Shaw is just a man that's trying, really. We see Lene show up to Ergo. So Lene originally shows up to Ergo to have a conversation with Tiffany, but Tiff is not there. So Trig can see that Lene is physically uncomfortable. So he basically tries to like coax Lene and was like, Lene, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. I'm going to try to help you the best way I can. And so Lene was like, can I trust you? And I'm just like, girl, that is Trig, girl. You can trust him with whatever. And so, basically, she was like, can I play something for you? And so she plays the recording for Trig, and Trig is immediately taken aback. And I was like, Lene, now this is the person, if you was going to say something to somebody, Lene, this was the person you should have said something to in the first place. And you should have told him that Nut killed Pastor Z. Because she forgot to omit that. Since you telling everything, Lene, you forgot to omit that information. See, if you going to tell something, that's the kind of person you tell. Because you know Trig ain't going to go and run his mouth to everybody. And see, and that's also the perfect person to tell Tiff, because Tiff trusts Trig. Tiff trusts Trig. She know Trig. First of all, Trig is a delivered street man, okay? He used to be in the streets, but he is delivered. He don't be in the streets no more, all right? He is reformed. And also, Tiff also said that she still cared about him. And so she know that Trig not going to come to her with no BS. She knows that. And so I was just like, that's perfect. That's perfect. So Trig immediately says, Lene, send me the recording. And so he goes to Emmett, which is right, I feel like. And he tells Emmett about the recording. He don't play Emmett the recording, but he tells Emmett that Nuck is the one who killed Rob. And so Emmett is shocked to hear the news, but he was just like, man, there's so much going on tonight, because y'all know Emmett don't really care for Nuck no way. So it's just the fact that, like, you know, but see, well, I guess it evens out, because I was about to say Emmett didn't say nothing to Keisha. And I'm surprised, because Emmett usually tells Keisha everything. But to be fair, Keisha ain't tell Emmett about Nut taking out Pastor Zeke. So I feel like there's an even exchange. But nonetheless, Trig tells Emmett that Nut is the one who killed Rob. And he said, how you know? He was like, I got a recording. So basically, Emmett was like, I can't tell Keisha tonight because I'm proposing to her tonight. And so Trig was like, okay, well, you propose to Keisha, and then I'll let you know everything afterward. I'm just like, oh boy. Oh boy. Jake meets with Reg. We see Jake meet with Reg. Jake is at the house. Now, I don't know whose house they was at. That didn't look like Candace's house, because I'm just like, that can't be Candace's house. I'm like, maybe that was Trig's house? I don't know. Either way, Reg bust into the door. So when Reg got into the door, Jake was already sitting there. And so he was happy to see Jake. And he was like, well, what's up? And so basically Jake was telling Reg to leave Bakari alone. And Reg was like, he worked for me or whatever like that. And then Bakari was like, not Bakari. Jake was like, leave Bakari alone. That's my brother. Reg was like, I'm your brother. He was like, nah, I get to choose my brothers. And then Reg was like, well, God chose you for me. And then Jake was like, no, the devil chose you. And then he was like, that's even better. And then Jake was like, bro, you are crazy. And then Reg was like, probably so. He was like, I don't give a F about you. I don't give a F about Trig. I don't give a F about Bakari. And I just was like, dang. Jake really struck a nerve. I never seen Reg like this bothered. Reg was dang near emotional for real. Like, I thought he was going to cry. I almost felt sorry for him a little bit. But y'all know, I only been reviewing The Chi for 2 seasons. But ever since I started watching The Chi, I never saw it for Reg. I thought Reg was the horriblest brother to Jake. A terrible example. And he had Jake confused. Jake was out here trying to be a thug at 12. And was getting beat up. But nonetheless, I thought it was interesting because I'm just like, wow, the evolution of Jake and Bakari's relationship have come so far, because they was literally fighting in the park like in season 4. And then, the whole thing went down with Gemma and Bakari. And then Jake kicked him out, and they weren't cool for a minute, you know? But hopefully, I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that Bakari don't get hurt by Reg because of what Jake said. That was my only thing, because I'm just like, I hope Reg don't see Bakari, don't be jealous of Bakari because of what Jake said. Dang, can I get it out? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm hoping that because Reg cares for Jake so much, he ends up, letting Bakari go and not doing nothing to him. After that, we see a scene of Nuck playing with Ronnie, and pretty much I'm like, this is gonna be the last time, Nuck is playing with Ronnie, because the saxophones is playing for Nuck. It's finna be over with. The girls are sitting around. It's Shawnetta, Jackie, I forget Hannibal's wife's name. Dang. And somebody else, and they playing cards. And basically, Hannibal's wife reveals that she is seeing somebody new. So I'm just like, hold on, girl. What you mean you seeing somebody new? You still married to Hannibal? Where's Hannibal at? She then explains that Hannibal is in witness protection, so they're apart. And so she said that her and Hannibal have an understanding. And so she tells the girl that she is messing with Smitty. And Jackie was like, oh, Lord. And then she was like, what, you know him? And then she was like, I don't know him, but I know of him. And then Shanetta was like, you got to stop meeting these street dudes at the grocery store. And then Hannibal's wife was like, I met him at Air Gold or something like, or she said Cigar Lounge, which is Air Gold. And she was just like, Jackie was like, yeah, I heard he quick with his hands. And then, I was like, please tell her. Because the way he had yoked Amaya up a couple episodes, I was like, okay, Smitty, it's giving a little DV, sir. I need for you to chill out. But nonetheless, that's her new boo, which I don't know how I feel about that. Because now that, the saxophones are playing for Nuck, it's giving Smitty gonna take over the mob. I don't know. Emmett proposes to Keisha. So basically, Emmett, well, let me just skip down to that part because I thought Emmett proposed to Keisha. But, okay, so I called it a couple episodes ago when we saw Keisha, Riley, Darnell, and Emmett all have conversations about getting proposed. I was like, Keisha and Emmett going to end up proposing to each other. Even though Emmett wants to propose to Keisha, they'll end up proposing to each other. So basically, they ended up proposing to each other. Emmett decked the house out. They had on a matching red silk pajamas. He decked the house out with photos of them and snacks and all kinds of stuff. And it was a very beautiful, touching moment. It's just really full circle because when the shot first came on, we met Keisha as like some random girl Emmett was messing with, and she was hiding under Emmett's bed. And Jada found her and offered her breakfast. So now she is Emmett's soon-to-be wife and mother of his child. And I just love how tender Keisha and Emmett are for each other. They always really been tender for each other, honestly. Like, regardless of who they were with at each time, they always made sure they protected and had each other's back and always was there for each other when they were going through rough times. And so I feel like their relationship is pretty solid. But, it was just the speeches that they hear. And when Keisha found out, or realized what Emmett was doing, it was her getting down on the pillow, meeting him even. And then Emmett kind of looked like he couldn't believe that it was happening, but he also looked like, he appreciated, because I guess he felt seen, is what I'm trying to say. Very beautiful moment. I was a little confused when she gave him the watch, but nonetheless, they proposed to each other. Whatever floats their boat. I'm happy for y'all. Congratulations. Send me my wedding invite and send me the registry so I can get y'all a gift. Lene is dressed up, getting ready to go out, and Bakara is at home sitting on the couch, and he asked Lene where she going, and she said, I'm going out, because I'm outside. I'm outside. And he was like, so we just had a talk, and now you trying to be outside? You just called me over here. She was like, that's you. They ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm finna go. I was like, ooh, Lene. Okay then, girl. Okay then, girl. Darnell and Riley take the boys to the arcade, and we see Zuri there with baby Jada, and we see baby Ronnie, and I was just like, oh my God, I feel so bad for baby Ronnie. Next, we see Patience introduced after. So Patience, you know, as I said previously, Patience got the clear from her baby father. And so Shad meets Mondo. And at first, Mondo is like, well, if I say I like him, can I get my phone back? Mondo is struggling. He want that phone back. This is after he done had a good time with his friends. He's still thinking about that phone. But all in all, Mondo kind of like comes to Shad as a man, sit down with his little bottle with his little drink in it, and was like, so, do you got any kids? And I was just like, oh my God, he finna grill him. And then Shad was like, no. And he was like, dang, because I'm tired of being the only child. And he kind of lightened the mood. So I was like, oh, Mondo, that's so precious. You better be the man in your mama's house. Oh, we see this quick scene with Hannibal's wife and Smitty. And basically they chilling, having a relaxing time, you know, vibing and whatnot. And she does bring up the fact that she heard that he puts his hands on women. And he was like, I don't do that no more. And I'm like, girl, you need to run for the hills. Because if he did it one time, he'll do it again. And she would be the one to take him out because she don't play. And her sister don't play. Okay? Okay. So then the scene pans and we see the lady who originally, you know, met with Patience. I don't remember her name. I'm so sorry. But she originally met with Patience at the bar in order to get Nora's information. Her and her man and Patience and Shaw are sitting at the table. And so they just having a conversation, regular conversation. Then Patience's phone started ringing and the other lady's phone started ringing. And then Patience turns on TV. And that's when they find out that Nora has been taken out. And we see a brief reaction from Rashad, but I'm sure we're going to hear more about it next episode because, you know, it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot for him, especially because the whole thing with Alicia is still fresh. Trig goes to Tiff's house. Nuck is not there. And I appreciate Trig going to Tiff's house. So basically, Trig goes, and see, this is another thing I like about Trig, because Trig went there and got straight to the point. He went there and he told Tiff, he was like, she was like, what is it? And he was like, I got some bad news for you. You might want to sit down. And she was like, I can get the bad news standing up. And so he was like, I need for you to listen to something. And he plays the recording with Zay. Tiff floored. She was just like, how long did you have this? Why you ain't never say nothing? He said, I am telling you, I just found out and I'm coming to you telling you this as soon as I found out. And I was like, golly, how perfect of a person was Trig. I know it kind of seems like there was a motive behind him telling Tiff, because everybody thinks that he wants Tiff and he was mad Tiff was with Nuck. I mean, that may be true, but he essentially does care about Tiff because he knows to the extent what kind of person Nuck is. He just couldn't prove it. But now that Lene gave him this information, he goes and tells Tiff. And one thing I can admire about Trig is that he went and told Tiff the information and he did not give up no names. So he kept Lene's trust, or he did not betray Lene's trust. And I was like, thank you, Trig. I appreciate that, because Lene didn't know what the ham sandwich she was doing. And she wanted to tell Tiff because essentially she's trying to free Bakari. Y'all, Bakari might make it. We don't gotta worry about Nuck taking him out. But now we may have to worry about Ridge, and we may have to worry about Rafi. But nonetheless, I was so glad that Tiff found this information, because y'all, for 5 weeks, we've been struggling with Tiff and was like, Tiff, open your eyes, girl. Open your eyes, girl. Open your eyes, girl. And so, we see, okay, I already talked about that. So basically, because I was about to talk about Keisha and Emmett's proposal and how they propose to each other, but I already covered that. So this is the end part. Okay, so now that Tiff has found out the information, she says, I knew Nuck was lying to me. She was like, and I knew I couldn't trust him. So we see the camera pan, but I know that Tiff and Nuck devised the plan. As we saw a couple of episodes ago, we saw that Nuck showed Tiff, how to shoot. So basically, I guess Tiff texted Nuck, and Nuck asked her where was she at, and she was like, I'm upstairs. He comes up the steps, and at the top of the steps, he sees Tiff and Trig, and he was like, what's going on? And I'm guessing Trig was there for backup in the event it didn't go right. So he was standing there, and Tiffany was like, this is for Rob. Bah, bah. I was like, I was hoping that, we all knew that it was going to be Tiff. But I was just saying, had to throw out some wild cards. But I'm just like, so Trig is going to be the one to help Tiff get rid of the body. What's going to happen next, y'all? Because this is going to affect so many people. What's going to happen with the mob now? Because I was thinking it was going to be a war between Ridge and Nuck. But since Nuck was working with Toussaint, is Toussaint going to think that Ridge did it because she knew that there was going to be a war? Or, I'm thinking Smitty's going to take over the mob, because Smitty was basically number 2. Is Smitty going to try to avenge Nuck's death? Or is Smitty going to say, the block is hot, we need to lay low? I said Rob's death. Did I say Nuck's death or Rob? I meant Nuck if I said Rob. I wonder how Keisha is going to feel. Because I feel like Keisha was still kind of tender for Nuck. I always felt like that. She said she won't, but I'm just like, the way she protected Nuck sometimes, knowing that he was trifling, I was just like, I don't know. But, that is her child's father. And Tiff did it. So is she going to be understanding of Tiff, taking out Nuck? Because Keisha still doesn't know that Nuck technically took out Rob. So that's going to be a lot of information for Keisha to handle, because all of their children are connected. As you know, Tiff is Emmett's ex-wife. Emmett's about to marry Keisha. Baby Rob and EJ, which is Emmett's son, they are shared siblings. And then, you know, Ronnie is shared siblings with baby Jada because, you know, Keisha had a baby with Nuck, and then, you know, she got a baby with Emmett now. So they're just all interweaved, you know. And so I do know that Emmett really liked Rob, but Emmett was always very skeptical of Nuck, even, you know, after Nuck, you know, took Duda out to protect him and Keisha. So I don't know how all that's gonna go. It's gonna be a very interesting dynamic, and I wonder how Trig is gonna, you know, I don't know if Trig and Emmett gonna keep this a secret between them because they knew about it, or are they gonna act shocked like they found out with everybody else. And then it was just the fact that Smitty told Nuck a couple episodes ago, it would be your woman to take you out and you least expect it. Oh my God, does that mean Hannibal wife might take Smitty out too? You know, I didn't think about that. It's a lot going on, y'all. This episode was really good. I didn't feel no way about Nuck. I felt like it was a long time coming. Nuck had to pay for his sins. Pastor Zeke, Pastor Stanley, Rob, Alicia, Zay, the girl from the trap house. You know, it was a lot. It was a lot. Duda. But that's 7 bodies, dog. Nuck got away with a lot. He got away with more than Duda did, for real. But yeah, y'all, let me know what y'all thought of this episode. Okay, this episode was tea. I'm interested to see how episode 6 gonna be. Leave me a comment down below, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back with more videos. Deuces.